I purchased a secondhand Olympic kiln because I wanted a bigger kiln. And to do the first test firing, I made a whole bunch of these blanks to do trinket dishes. And I'm finally getting around to finishing them up. And I'm going to use my Cricut Joy, which is a vinyl cutting machine, and the Fusing Factory powder printer to finish these up. It's amazing how many images are loaded into this thing. And I thought by looking at the fonts that they were all pretty expensive, but they're not. These are very, very inexpensive and very cute. I decided not to get the subscription, which was pretty expensive considering what I'm using it for. So to buy these little snowflakes, they were 99 cents. And you buy it once and then you have it forever. So I thought that was a reasonable price for a cute little snowflake. All right. You just want to push it down. I pushed it down really hard last time. I might be a little gentler because it was tough to get it up. So I took the stencil, put it on top of the glass, and then filled it with paint. I'm gonna let it dry, peel off the stencil, and then I'll fire it. So it's the next morning, and my glass line paint is dry. So I just need to peel this transfer tape off. And this is a special tape, special vinyl by Cricut. It's made for stencils. And it comes off much easier than the normal vinyl. And thank goodness I went with the transfer vinyl because it's pretty hard to get this off. Wow, it works really, really well. There is no paint leaked underneath the stencil. So let me finish getting this cleaned up and I'll bring you back and give you a look at it. Well, I'm gonna have to redo it because instead of going upstairs and getting the proper tool, I used this little skinny file, slipped, and slid right across the center of the snowflake. Push the paint off and I'll start over. And then tomorrow, when it's dry, or later when it's dry, I'll use the proper tool to get the stencil off. Okay, I have it close enough to center. I need to be less fussy because this stuff is a little fiddly to work with. So I have two. I'm going to put the paint on, let them dry for a while, gently peel the stencil off with the proper tool, and then fire them at a tack fuse. It's challenging to get it off, but well worth the task because you end up with such a beautiful painted surface. And creating the stencil is so easy. Applying the stencil is a little bit tricky to get it right where you want it to be, unless you're not quite the perfectionist. Like I am not going to take out the ruler because I don't think this is exactly centered, but it's close enough. And sometimes you have to let that go. That sense of perfectionism. But I love it. A beautiful snowflake in the middle of what will become a trinket dish. So now these are going to go in for a tack fuse to set the paint. And I'm going to pull out the leaves that I did, the leaf wafers, and I will set them in these beautiful autumn colored bases. It was really fun. You need the little shelf that came with it. it has to be sprayed with zip spray. You cannot use the thin fire because you will end up with thin fire inside the wafers when you make them, and you don't want that. So you take the first piece, the little points, fit in the little points. I like them when they have darker veins like these, but not too dark. So I'm gonna go with a brown. So you put that in place, you grab some powder. I use a tea strainer. This time I think I'm gonna do a dark rose brown. And you wanna go back and forth and make light layers. Nothing too heavy. And I find that if I do not fill it as far as they recommend, I like the look a little bit better. So I do a pretty light coating in there. They recommend that you bring it part way up the channel. I don't actually like that. So you just take this, lift it straight up. So we put that in place. And now I want my leaves to be slightly variegated. So I've got transparent red, transparent marigold yellow. I think I might put another little bit of brown in there if I can find a good powder. I buy these as samples, and so I just get what I get. So I'm going to start with the brown near the stem end, move into the orange, and then yellow at the tips of the leaves. And again, you're putting this in thin layers. You do not want to shake over one particular spot for too long. You just want nice thin layers. I'm going to put the red right over top of some of the brown I just did. And I'm building up over the other layers because it'll give it more depth. And you'll have little bits of yellow peeking out the edges of the leaves. These I'm going to save, but I won't put them back in the containers because we've got powders mixed here. So with these, I just put them into a separate container. I use that to fill in if I'm doing opal glass and you're not going to see what's behind it. I will fill it in with this extra powder instead of wasting it, because this one you want to put so that it goes up the edge a little bit. So once I have the colors that I want, I won't do too much with this because it's all transparent glass. But then I have this container, and this is all the mixed powder that I saved. And then I would go back over the top of this if I were using opal glass, and I would be filling it in with powder that would otherwise be wasted. And this one you have to be careful, because if you tip it sideways or slide it sideways, you're going to damage the edge of the wafer. So you want to lift it straight up. Look at that, ready to go in the kiln. And my Pro 4 is the one that changes a lot. So it's 400, 1125, hold for 0 minutes. Then it's 100 to 1225, hold for 20 minutes, off. It's a really quick fire for these wafers. This is how the wafers look when they first come out of the kiln, when we did them upside down. So you just have to gently lift them up. Look at how absolutely gorgeous. There's a little tiny bit on the edge that needs to come off. I don't know if you can see it, but little tiny bits of powder that went over. And you just use a really narrow file and just gently take it right off. But look at how gorgeous. these leaves are, and that one that I didn't put enough. You actually can't tell, especially if you overlap your leaves. I did a few of them, the leaf plates in the Gen Ken, and they worked out beautifully. This set I was hoping to fire today, but I can only fit 3 at a time in the Gen Ken, and look at all the extra space in the beast. So I'm definitely not going to fire this 2/3 empty. I will probably make a few more of these blanks, which are so pretty, and work on my snowman platter. And then I will put up a video to show you how they turn out. But for now, thanks so much for watching.